All right. Welcome, everyone. Hello and welcome to Live with Just Us, Just Leadership USA's Facebook Live discussion series. My name is Hakeem Crampton. I'm a senior movement and capacity building specialist with Just Leadership USA.
And my name is Lester Young. I'm the senior movement capacity building specialist with Just Leadership as well. Blessings, everyone.
In 2014, Just Leadership USA was founded, of course, as you know, on the principle that those closer to the problem are also closer to the solution, but furthest from those power and resources much needed by our community. So we work to amplify the power of directly impacted people. We educate, we empower and elevate their voices so that they have the tools and resources to self-organize and to advocate for themselves, their families, and most importantly, the communities they come from. Together, we build an equitable, fair, and just United States. Over the last decade, Just Leadership has successfully launched campaigns coast to coast, from Close Rikers in New York to Justice LA. We have been empowering communities through their advocacy and through their lived experiences.
And one of the ways which we Just Leadership have actually been doing this is through our cohort called Leading with Conviction. And just wanted to just share with you all the application for Leading with Conviction is now open for our 10th anniversary of Leading with Conviction 2024 cohort. Leading with Conviction is a leadership training program for community organizers, activists, organizers, and advocates, advocates, activists, and organizers, anyone who's really looking to elevate their leadership role in changing the criminal legal system in our society.
And so this is the reason why we're here today, to really discuss and answer questions about the nomination and application process and the experience of participating in Leading with Conviction. So for our 10th anniversary cohort, we're excited to speak about how the Leading with Conviction curriculum and network has grown as the #1 leadership development program created by and for systems impacted leaders. Since our first cohort in 2015, we have grown from 19 leaders to a network of over 1,500 across 45 different states, including Washington, D.C. But this is also our first year as an international accreditation for continuing education, that's IACET. And through this training provider, we'll talk more about what this means and how this is going to impact those leaders that will be in our Leader with Conviction training program.
You know, before I introduce our one of our guests, which is Kimberly, I just want to stop for a moment and really emphasize, like, could you imagine that we just had, when this Leading with Conviction started, with just 19 people. I think we ran through that, Akeem, 19 people. And now it's 2000 going into the next cohort, 2024. We add 1,500 people. So that just shows that Just Leadership has been making the investment in empowering and elevating and educating leaders for so long. And now we're up on this 10th year anniversary of the 2024 cohort. Kimberly, we would just like to invite you, welcome you into this discussion. Thank you for making the investment in your leadership in 2020. As well as thank you for being on this panel. Could you just share with the audience, the group who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube Live, share a little bit about yourself, please?
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here talking about a program that is near and dear to my heart. I'm Kimberly Haven, and I am a Leading with Conviction 2020. We all say that we're the best cohort class, but 2020. But I am also the executive director of Reproductive Justice Inside, which is a national organization that works on policy for reproductive health care and access for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women and girls, as well as the executive director of Forward Justice Maryland, which works on parole and probation reform, particularly as it relates to women. But I do those jobs because of the experiences that I had with Leading with Conviction and with Just Leadership. So I'm really excited to just really jump into that. People can certainly reach out to me if they have questions about what I do, but I really want to talk about Leading with Conviction.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kimberly. It's wonderful to have someone like yourself, leading the way in your community. And so this really opens up our first kind of discussions that Lester and I will have, and then invite you to share your experiences into that as well. And so we're going to jump into this conversation tonight. We're so excited to have so many people on listening to us. We're going to jump into this conversation tonight and start talking about some of the prerequisites of what is the process, what the process looks like to get started for leading with conviction. And that process, first and foremost, of course, is what are some of those prerequisite requirements? You know, who's eligible for leading with conviction to join this year's cohort? And so the first requirement that I would throw out there, Lester, is, of course, we're looking for leaders who have established themselves in their communities over the last 3 to 5 years, established leading the way, leading initiatives, advocating, using their voice, using their lived experience to pivot the narrative and to insert their experience and their voice and their advocacy into that arena. And so we're looking for leaders that have 3 to 5 years of experience post-incarceration and have been on the ground doing this work, whether or not they're a CEO or just an advocate on the ground, but someone who has demonstrated 3 to 5 years of clear leading on the ground. What else do you think, Lester?
I think too, you know, it's as you mentioned, being a part of this Leading with Conviction cohort of 2024 and being a part of this illustrious alumni, right? Is that you have to have made some investment in your leadership. So when we're talking about who do we nominate, we're looking for leaders who not only invested that 3 to 5 years, but also is really focusing on that and have acclimated back into life after a conviction. And as they always say, you have to build something first, right? Before someone can follow you, build something. So that's what we're really looking at, is looking for leaders who have made that personal investment in their own growth and really to build something on a national scale. So that even comes down to reentry stuff, focus on employment, focus on advocacy and community building issues. And I think about this, Hakeem, when I first got out of prison in 2014 and I came home and employment was a big challenge for me. Before I joined Just Leadership back then to become a statewide organizer, I literally had to put the work in. And I started before I even knew anything about Just Leadership, advocating for ban the box policies and stuff like that. So what we're saying is, for those that we're looking to nominate, is individuals who have literally put their boots on the ground and been started from the mud, and now at a level where they realize that they need more tools to invest in their leadership to elevate their game to the next level. So that's what we're looking at when we're talking about nominating individuals for leading conviction, is those who already have been putting in the work and ready to elevate it to the next level. And that's what leading conviction is all about.
Absolutely. And it also includes those individuals that are directly and indirectly impacted as well. So that could be, you know, a spouse of someone that has been involved and experienced what it's like to be arrested for a family one, for a loved one, right? For them to go through the court experience, for them perhaps to be incarcerated, to have an attorney appointed to them, perhaps to have a probation officer, a parole officer. If you were a family member of someone that you directly participated in that process with your family member, your loved one, you are directly impacted by the criminal justice system, right? Especially if you had, for example, to let some loved one come home to you post-release upon parole. That required that you had to give up some rights, to open up your home to the system, to let a parole officer come in and verify that your home is acceptable for them to come live and to be monitored in your home, to be sort of like a second jail, post jail for the system, right? And so that type of person is directly impacted. And so we're looking for those individuals that have experienced the system in that capacity, or have themselves directly been incarcerated, because it ultimately talks about the mission. What is the real mission of Just Leadership, and why are we actually bringing in cohorts of leaders into this national network of leadership? Why? What is our mission? And of course, it goes back to our founding principle, right? That those closer to the problem of harms that are happening to our community, to the problem of injustice that is happening to our community, to the problem of the lack of representation and the divestment of people in communities, right? Those are the problems. So those people who have been impacted by those problems, these are the people that can really solve them, if given power, if given access to the resources. And so what we've come to learn is that those individuals that have experienced that, they need to be given the leadership skills, right? to be invested in their development, right? Because that way, that gives them the access to the tools. Like Kim has come into the fold. She was already doing groundwork, using her experience, right, to then begin advocating. Then she applied for Leading with Conviction, got accepted into the program, and then she began to add to her passion, to her lived experience, add to her leadership, her network, this national network of leaders. And as she added to the network, she added skills and tools, right, that were tried and tested in her cohort, with her cohort-based training, right? That's what Leading with Conviction is all about. It's about finding those leaders that have that lived experience, that is closest to the problem, have solutions, and need the tools, right, to go in there and tear down this house and rebuild this structure that is dilapidated.
Okay. Kim, you got me a bit amped up, ready to pull you in to just talk about why this is so important, right, Kimberly? You know, and this is something that we just want to emphasize. Think about the Leading with Conviction training. Think about it as the most prestigious training in the country when it comes to formerly incarcerated men and women getting equipped to change the system that once incarcerated them, that they're now focusing on dismantling that system. That's how prestigious Leading with Conviction is, because we have so many people apply for it and they get a little discouraged and disappointed because why wasn't I accepted? We now talking about over 200 formerly incarcerated men and women across this country that is applying for this. So that means that you have to really have your game stepped up and really put that work in to be accepted into this prestigious, great opportunity for us Leading with Conviction. With that, Kimberly, I want to just ask you this question: like, what was it that led you to, one, applying for Leading with Conviction, and then two, what was some of the once you could graduated from it, what were some of the tools that you used to continue to do the great work that you're doing right now today?
Thank you so much. Those are both great questions. I've been doing this work for a very long time. I'm not going to tell you how long, probably longer than most of you have been alive, not going to lie. If I hadn't heard football analogy, when someone called me a goat, I would have been offended. But I've been in this space since before there was a movement, before there was any of us organizing, before any of us were allowed in meetings. We used to be told that there were no meetings. And if we did find out about it, we were told the wrong room. We were not invited to these rooms. We were not invited to these tables. And yet we had the expertise and the knowledge and the insight. So I've been doing this work for a very long time. I heard about Just Leadership. I knew about the leadership. I knew about the program. And it was an opportunity for me to take what I was already doing and be able to invest even further in my work, to amplify my work. But also in amplifying my work, I was also creating the opportunity to amplify the voices of others who are just like me, to give them a platform to elevate the work that they are doing. And I think that one of the best things that sort of has come out of this is not just, I'm sorry, y'all, you know how technology is.
Hey, we on live, we good.
Yeah, thank you. He's not photobombing us yet, so I guess we're good. But I think the thing that I really have walked away from is being a part of having participated in, I think, the best leadership development program that is there, that is for us. You know, there are schools that you can go to, but they're not for us. They're not informed by us. But also, when you walk away, you are part of a cohort, a collaborative, an organization, a movement, a body, where I still reach out to my brothers and sisters and say, I've got this going on. What can I do? What has worked for you? How can we engage in this conversation? I get asked all the time, how can people collaborate with the work that I'm doing? And I do the same thing. How can I collaborate with the work that you're doing in your state? What can I do to help? How can I be a part of your success? And I have learned so many things about effective leadership development that has enabled me to become a trainer in my work, to also be able to create a pathway for other leaders to come into this and put their mark on the movement and bring their lived experience and their voices to this. I would not be doing the caliber of work that I'm doing with the network that I have had I not gone through Leading with Conviction, to be perfectly honest.
Hey, Kimberly, we always hear the saying that your network is your net worth, right? We hear that a lot, that your network is your net worth. And that's the beauty of Leading with Conviction cohort, right? You're talking about you have a net worth of people, over 1,500 men and women who are tied to you now. And it's all because you went through this cohort, right? I went through a cohort. Rather, some people say 2017, 2015 was the best, but we all take pride in knowing that whatever the cohort that you graduated from, it is the best. And I just want to highlight before I pass it to my colleague Hakeem, is that I want those who are listening to this is to understand that when I say that this is prestigious training for leaders, please know and understand that this is the only training we believe that has been curtailed and built with those who have been directly impacted in mind, right? Is that our training is myself and Hakeem are two directly impacted people who are facilitating the training. And every time we're doing this training, I always hear people walk away say, wow, the training was powerful, because not only just because of the information, but to see two individuals leading that were directly impacted, leading with conviction, facilitating a training. And that's the beauty of you coming to this room. Is almost like walking into a Super Bowl or a championship with all of the great, phenomenal leaders who have been directly impacted, been in prison, and out here doing phenomenal work. And now you're coming together in this cohort together to celebrate and to network. So that's just the beauty. I just wanted to share that as well as I pass it to my colleague Hakeem.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about what you're highlighting, Lester, is the fact that the experience, right, that Kimberly was just really talking about, is that lived experience interacting with systems that have harmed people the most, right? And so, it really opens up the discussion further, because we're on here to really, give an opportunity for people to understand what's all at stake, what's all involved with Leading with Conviction with the program, and what does the program consist of. And so as we get deeper into the discussion to talk about some of the requirements of entering Leading with Conviction, we want to highlight the fact that some of the critical experiences that we're looking for when leaders, when we're evaluating and doing the selection process, we're really looking for leaders that have a proven track record, right? That have not just been impacted by the system, because in America, really everyone is impacted one way or another. The statistical numbers relative to just the normal person in America being impacted is astronomical, right? And so what's pinpointed is that lived experience of a person interacting with the system, that person has then exercised that experience, to utilize that experience to advocate, to organize, to call to attention, and to educate, and to engage the community, right? We're looking for people that have that kind of experience. And even if it's not in a working capacity, right? Some of us are doing this work or what they call a volunteer capacity, meaning that we're getting out in the community, we're engaging our community, we're involved, we participate and help use our voice and our passion for something that we're passionate about. But we're also highlighting that those individuals that are working in this capacity, they wake up every day and they go to sleep doing this. And most of the time for them, it's with a paycheck, right? And sometimes the paycheck isn't sufficient, right? And so we're looking for people that have the experience, the dedication, the commitment to this work, right? And this is what they're coming into the cohort for. They're coming into the cohort to enhance that experience that they have, to add to it skills and tools that are applicable specifically in organizing. And that's the reason why it's cohort based, so that you have a group of fellows that you work with, right? That you network with and apply these tools, right? Hand me that wrench over there. Now it's my turn to try those vice grips, etc. Right? And you work together to learn how to, operationalize this work. And be effective and impactful in this work, and to ultimately get the job done. And so one of the things about it, of course, is that this coming up year 2024, our training development program is IACET accredited. And IACET, of course, is for the international accreditors for continuing education and training. And that is significant at this level of work that we're doing, because many of those that are doing this work are therapists, are lawyers, right? Many of them are doctors and scholars in different fields that require them to continue to maintain their professional licenses, right? In order to maintain those professional licenses, they're required to obtain a certain amount of continuing education units of credit hours that they acquire in a certain field or related field. And our program now is accredited nationally, internationally, right? We met the standards so that our training, those hours that leaders put in learning from us, right? Collaborating and networking in this training program, they will be eligible for those that are qualified to be eligible to use those hours for their continuing education credits. And that is critical right now. And so, this program has continued to grow and expand, and we're looking for leaders out there that really want to enhance their leadership and really be impactful in their communities.
Cool. Thanks, Hakeem. Kimberly, just another quick question. I know we still have a little time. I'm just like I mentioned, that our training is curtailed for directly impacted people. It's led out from the top of our organization to the bottom of our organization. From the foundation of the organization was for those who've been directly impacted. Could you talk a little more about some of completing that 10-month cohort? What are some of the valuable tools you received out of it, whether it's the LPI, whether it's the value problem solution, whether it's the breakthrough leadership action? Share with those who are listening that want to still learn more about the leading with conviction. What are some of the lessons and tools you got out after you graduated? What are some of those tools that really, to this day, 2020, you still carry with you in 2024?
Thanks, Lester. I think that when I first started, we had to do that 360 assessment. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I hated it. I dreaded it with everything in every fiber in my being. But I will tell you that after going through it, I learned not just how I was perceived, but also I learned more about myself. I learned things that I did not recognize that allowed me to grow both personally and professionally, and to watch the evolution over that 10 months. And then of course, you do it again at the end, and it was amazing. I didn't hate it at that point. The VPSA I use all the time. And I will tell you that I'm the only formerly incarcerated person in Maryland who has written policy that's gotten passed into law. And I've done it 5 times. And every time I engage a legislator or their staff or the governor, whoever it is, I always use that VPSA, because again, that is what creates that opportunity for me to have conversations. And while didn't really understand it when I started learning about it. And then, like I said, I use it with my family. I use it with my friends. Although when you do it with your friends, they kind of go, don't VPSA me. But it is a very effective tool that I use in legislative session all of the time. I also use it when I'm talking to community groups who are trying to address an issue that they want to deal with. And it's a great model to engage people. And again, we're all working towards these same sort of ends. How we get there, how do we identify the problems? How do we identify the solutions? But it's not just complaining about the problem, it's also the action. And I think that is probably the most valuable tool. That, and of course, my cohort and the collaborations that I draw on a regular basis. But both of those tools were incredibly powerful. And it's not something that you can learn on your own. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. That leads us into just the whole, just me speaking about the curriculum. Thank you, Kimberly. Kimberly mentioned the LPI. A part of joining the cohort of Leading with Conviction, the initial stage of that is that you take what is called the LPI 360 assessment, helping an individual leader to identify their blind spots as a leader. As leaders, we'd be leading forward, and we never realize that there's so many blind spots around us. So with this 360 assessment, you take at the beginning, and then you take one at the end. The beginning of this 360 is just to really help you identify what are your blind spots when it comes down to How do you model the way as a leader? How do you inspire to share vision as a leader? How do you enable others to act as a leader? How do you challenge the process? And how do you encourage? Those are the 5 principles with the LPI covers. And it's about helping you identify that blind spot so that as you go into this 10-month cohort, you're now learning to identify what areas I need to work on. And in that, Kimberly, she mentioned the VPSA. The VPSA is a communicational tool that we teach our leaders and how to lead with the value of whatever the issue is. Find a value with the individual you're speaking about. And then from there, you talk about the problem, the solution, and action. All of these are effective communication tools that helps you professionally and personally. As Kimberly mentioned, the LPI not only help you in your professional leadership development, but it also can be applied to you in relationships in your family. Are you modeling the way with your family? You know what I'm saying? So in that is some of the things that I just want to share with you. In this also, with our curriculum, we're going to be covering what in the group discussions is always group discussions, breakout sessions, assignments, individual mentoring. Once you assign your LPI, now you have executive coaching for the entire 10 months. Like myself and Hakeem, we're executive coaches, not as well as a trainer. So you now will have a coach assigned to you that will walk you through the next 10 months, helping you identify, turn those blind spots or turn those weaknesses into strength as you doing this 10-month training. And just to share as well, that this training will consist of 2 in-person trainings. I mean, you would have to appear 2 times in person. That's in either New York or Washington. 2 online forms, which will be a Saturday and a Sunday, or all-day training. And then we do webinars. We have 6 webinars, which is about 2 hours. And you will get those dates once you get accepted into the LWC program. You will get the syllabus, knowing what are the 2 in-person training, as well as the online training, as well as the virtual training. So you'll get an understanding that you can start planning according if you're accepted in this. But as I said, it's required. It's a 10-month training program, and it requires dedication. It requires dedication for you to sit on a virtual call or fly to New York or Washington, D.C. for 2 in-person trainings, which will be paid for by Just Leadership. But you have to be committed to have the discipline to stay through the entire 10 months. So for those who are on listening today and they're like, yo, I want to be a part of this, make sure that your schedule will be able to, if you're accepted, make sure that your schedule will be able to, you'll be available for 10 months for this entire training. And as I said, we are looking to identify at least, we're hoping to have 25 to 30, 35 individuals that are nominated to go through this Leading with Conviction program. And you hopefully will be that individual, like Kimberly, will be able to come back and speak about your profound experience that you received after completing LWC. Hakeem?
Yeah, and that leads us to talk about a couple other different points relative to the curriculum and what do leaders go on to do with their training after graduating, so to speak, you know. And see, the thing about this program and our curriculum is that it primarily focuses on leadership development and advocacy training, right? But overall, this training is about its ultimate outcome, right? Having an impact in your community. And so it speaks right to the heart of capacity, right? And so that's the key element of what leaders go on to do after graduating, Leading with Conviction, is they really expand their capacity of the impact they're having in their community, right? Their network grows tremendously. They begin appearing in places that they hadn't been before. Their voices are now inserted in spaces and places that previously was denied them. They start ascending in career goals, started being identified for positions in their career, their professions. These are some of the things that are happening because the leadership has developed, it has blossomed, and others are able to see it, which is critical to the leadership development piece that we spanned upon the capacity of other leaders, right? Because leaders who inspire other leaders to lead is the ultimate impact, because there's no limit on that level of leadership. When you impact someone else, they're impacting someone else, and they're impacting someone else. And that domino effect is astronomical. You can never really calculate that. So it's all about expanding the capacity, but it's all about also about managing conflict, so that leaders who go on graduating from Leading with Conviction, they become brokers in their community of managing conflict, of bringing about resolution to problems and crises in their community. They become people who people look to them for the solution, right? To the crisis in their community, look to them as an expert for advice and counsel and help and assistance and support. So they become, their leadership expands astronomically through their skill set, through conflict management, through essentially branding themselves, because leaders come out of Leading with Conviction with a new capacity to brand themselves, meaning that they have the new ability to target audiences with their messaging, with their VPSA, right, that Lester just talked about. They begin to learn how to really target their audiences and craft their message regarding themselves as a brand, as a lived experience, as a professional person worthy of being recognized for who they are and not for who they used to be, right? And so for who they are now, that voice, that leadership, that professionalism begins to show, and their brand begins to be highlighted, right? And their organizing skills begins to show up astronomically in their community. They're ultimately, managing situations in the community, groups and collaborations, and they're making the connections and the dots. And these are all based upon skill sets. So when people graduate our program, you start seeing them shine, and you start seeing people like Couture ascending to state representative positions. And it's a matriculation of her skill set that, was blossomed in Leading with Conviction. And so people go on to do just absolutely phenomenal things with these skill sets and through their network that is opened up for them across the nation.
Can I build on that just for a quick second, Hakeem? Because I know that because of going through Leading with Conviction, I have legislators that will call me and ask me what my opinion is on legislation that's coming before them, because we have this really unique line that we walk. So we know what good policy is. We know what bad policy is. We also know how those policies are going to be interpreted by our brothers and sisters, whether they're still behind the fence or they are coming home. So we present a voice that is not generally included in the narrative. And so because of going through this and our professionalism and building out our credentials, and we become that go-to resource, not just for legislators and elected officials, and but the media now consults our group and says, what do you think about this policy? Is this good? Is this bad? How is this going to be implemented? How is it going to have a good effect or a bad effect? And so all of that comes out of this amazing network. And one of the other things that I really wanted to stress too was not only do you come into Leading with Conviction, making the investment of yourself, and you make that commitment, but the organization makes an incredible investment and commitment to every single person that goes through Leading with Conviction. And we don't generally get that. We don't get that level of commitment and support. This organization does do that. And that is something that you can't put a price tag on that. That plays out in all of our work.
Yeah. Kimberly, thank you for that. Thank you for that. As I was listening to you and Hakeem, I was just thinking about the analogy I remember Deanna once shared with me about a fish cannot grow the size of its bowl that it's in, right? The container that it's in. And I think that, with Leading with Conviction, if you're looking to grow outside of the container, meaning local, and you're looking to expand your leadership nationally, be that go-to expert because of your lived experience as a formerly incarcerated person, male or female, is that you really have to understand that this is what the Leading with Conviction does. It helps you grow outside of the container of local to a national level. And I think that that's the beauty, like Uncle Ron has, is that over 1,500 leaders in 45 states plus Washington, D.C., you're now no longer a local person in your community. You now become a person that has a national perspective and connected to a national network of 1,500 plus leaders in this country. So that's the beauty of Leading with Conviction. As I said, that's why it's so prestigious. That's why it's so It's very competitive. It's something that everyone want to be a part of because they see the value. And then I thank you, Kimberly and Hakeem, who also is a graduate of Leading with Conviction, just to be able to show how graduating from Leading with Conviction not only elevated you, Kimberly, but it also elevated Hakeem and his role as building capacity building specialist, as well as other team members on our team like Rick Speck, who's the director, Lana, who's also a part of our team now, who once went through this program and now they're a part of the organization structure of this here. So I just want to just say to continue to look at the ticker at the bottom. And if you all have liked what we were said, myself, Hakeem, and Kimberly have said, go online and get someone through a nomination process, as well as just go and look up Just Leadership and see what we're doing and what we have doing and continue to do in this space right here when it's talking about changing the criminal legal system in this particular capacity. Hakeem, you have anything else you want to add, my brother?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to talk about, for example, what should you do should you get selected or get nominated? And then what should you do if you don't get selected? Let's just briefly talk about those for the next few minutes. So over the past few years, our selection process has went a little different, and it requires a nomination from a recognized, leader in the community that recognizes you for your leadership. And then they put out a nomination through our nomination process. That nomination process then comes to our organization, and then we send a notification out to you that you've been nominated, and do you accept this nomination? And if you accept that nomination, we hope you do. The first thing I would suggest and recommend for you to do is call that person back who nominated you, right? Have a conversation with them, acknowledge them and thank them for nominating you, for acknowledging your leadership, for recognizing your leadership. And then secondly, what to do essentially is to really prepare yourself for what this really means, because what this really means is at least a year of commitment to this process. And it is a training institute. So you'll be involved in a long duration of a year-long process of being engaged in training, which will include group training as well as individualized coach-based training. And so be prepared for that year-long commitment. And that commitment is just like if you enroll into a master's program, that requires a major commitment to get through that master's program and to essentially submit all of your required, all of the essential requirements for that course to meet those course requirements. And the same thing in Leading with Conviction. So, be prepared to really take on the challenge of the application process. The application process really engages you to learn as much about you as possible, about your leadership, about the organizing and advocacy that you've been involved in within your community. So we want to learn about you as much as possible. So be as thorough as possible in answering any questions that appears in the application. And as you be thorough, make sure that you articulate clearly the outcomes that you're meeting in your leadership, the outcome that you're meeting in your advocacy, so that we can know and understand how much and how well your leadership has progressed so far, because that of course allows us to evaluate in our selection process, a proper fit to this leadership development program. And then lastly, of course, so what to do if you don't get selected? And mind you, this is a rigorous selection process. This is a highly competitive program. People really want to get into this program because it's really developed. It's really highly advanced. And we have international accreditations now, ISET. And so it's a very important training development program that really solidifies your resume. And really more so than beyond your resume, of course, it's personal and development that's going to have an impact in your community. So therefore, everyone, of course, can't get selected. Even worthy candidates may get filtered out, not because they weren't thought to be, or you're not thought to be a leader or worthy of being in the program. It's just that the competitive process is so big and so large that it's impossible to simply take everyone in who is eligible and qualified. We're going to get more people qualified than we can take in. So if you don't get selected, that just simply means that, and in some people's cohort, almost every cohort, everyone says that they belong to the best cohort. So if you don't get selected, all that means is that you didn't get selected for what they think to be the best cohort, because you're going to get selected in the future if you apply again for the best cohort in the future, right? So be prepared for that. That this only means that wasn't your time to be a part of the best cohort. But keep applying and following up with us and stay connected to Just Leadership, because so many people who haven't applied, stayed connected 2-3 years later, got in the program, and look at them soaring now. One particular example I'm going to point out is Tijuana Brown in Charlottesville, Charlotte, North Carolina, who didn't get in except for 2 or 3 times. And once she got accepted, I mean, wow, her leadership is phenomenal. She's currently a candidate in her local city for office. And I've been to one of her homes there for women, and it's phenomenal. Her leadership is just absolutely spectacular. So don't get discouraged. Reapply again and stay connected to Just Leadership.
Hakeem, I think that is a really critical point. I didn't get in the first time I tried. I didn't get in the second time I applied. It was my third time that I was finally accepted. But in those intervening years, I stayed connected with the organization. I watched what was happening. I connected with leaders. And so then, like you said, it was my time to be a 2020 Leading with Conviction Fellow. And I honestly think that really also goes to how much you're going to invest in yourself and the commitment that you have in your own leadership and in wanting to take your work to the next level, is to keep applying, to keep connected, to reach out, to be a part of this amazing organization. And when it's your time, then you too will be able to say that you are the best cohort of whatever year that you are a part of, because I'll tell you, we all say that. And we all mean it. It is all true. But please, if you see yourself as a leader, if you want to develop these skills, do not let just because you don't get accepted derail you. Because that is not the sign of the leader that we're looking for, but it's also doing a disservice to you and to work that you're going to be doing. And I see one of my brothers from my cohort, Danny, is on watching us, and we are the best. I'm just saying. But again, if you don't get in, you keep applying, but stay connected, because this work is too important. And we have so much work that we can do collaboratively and that we can do collectively. And this is the program that you want to be a part of to get that credentialing and that certification and that collaboration and build out that net worth of your network.
Thanks, Kimberly. To come to a conclusion, we're coming to a conclusion on this. I just want to encourage you all, as we mentioned, there's 1,500 leaders across the country. Go to justleadership.org, JLUSA.org, and go there and actually look at all of the previous graduates of this cohort and see if you know any one of these individuals. See if you can connect with them. And if you see that they're from the same city as you, send them an email and ask them about nominating you for this upcoming cohort. Find someone in your community that is already connected to Just Leadership that can possibly nominate you for this particular cohort that is coming up. So again, just go to justleadership.org and you can have an opportunity to see all of the great work Just Leadership has done coming up on 10 years. You can see how many individuals have graduated, what cities and towns that may be near you that actually someone in your community already know about Just Leadership. Part of networking is reaching out to these individuals and asking them more about what Just Leadership stands for, and also seeing if they would be willing to nominate you for the upcoming cohort of 2024. Hakeem, if there's nothing else, I don't have anything else to say, my brother. Do you have anything else to share before we conclude out?
No, we just definitely want to acknowledge all of those that are on, listening, joining us, posting comments, encouraging us. We definitely thank you all. This is an opportunity for you, this year to empower a systems impacted leader, by nominating someone. This is our 10th year of this national organization, and people who know the history of movements in criminal justice. We know that we've never had a movement like this, like within the criminal justice organizations, like Just Leadership USA, that was inspired by a vision of empowering those directly impacted by the system, not only to just to be considered and to not be continue to be discriminated against, but to be empowered with a voice in the space and place where legislation is taking place. the place where legislation that takes place that ultimately harms us because our voice hasn't been in the room. This organization and this movement and this work, it empowers us to get to those rooms, right? To get to those spaces so that our advocacy, our lived experience becomes a part of the process of legislating new law, new policy that will have an impact on us that is not disparate, that is not negative, that is not harmful, right? And so as you mentioned, of course, Lester, I myself graduated in 2018 from Leading with Conviction. And of course, I got to Leading with Conviction because of the leadership that I had been involved in statewide within my community in education justice, juvenile justice, leading the voice, right? Leading with my experience. But after that, not only did I get hired in the organization, became a statewide organizing, pushing for expungement packages and bills to be passed and signed by our governor in our state, but I ultimately became the first formerly incarcerated person in the state of Michigan to ever be appointed to a state commission to serve out a term. I was commissioned to serve a 4-year term as the commissioner of the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, overseeing our entire public defense system that had been newly created, something that we hadn't had before. There had been previous discretionary appointments by judges of lawyers to essentially work out plea bargains. And now we have an actual public defender system that goes in every day and fights not for a deal, but fights for a not guilty verdict or a dismissal, right? And so I had been a part of that for 4 years. My term expired early this year, but to be a part of that process, that legislative body, to what we implemented, got legislated and passed into law so that my vote, my voice became actual a law being practiced in the state of Michigan that has an impact on the communities where we were previously negatively impacted. That's what Leading with Conviction is all about. That's what Leading with Conviction is designed to do, to elevate you, to get you to a powerful space and place where the negative impacts in your community are no longer happening because you've inserted yourself with your experience, your will, your leadership. And that's why we love you for it. So I want to salute everyone for joining us. Turn it over to you, Lester, to send us out.
I would say again, thank you, Kimberly. Thank the audience on Facebook and YouTube for taking the time out of their busy schedule to listen to us. If you have any questions, again, you can go to Just Leadership. You can actually post some comments and post your questions in the comment section, and someone from our team would respond back to those questions ASAP for you. Again, Kimberly, thank you for showing up today. And again, we know that leaders show up. And also to our team on the background who have helped us with the technical issues. Thank you all as well. And we look forward to seeing you in our next Leading with Conviction cohort. Peace.
Yes. And let me answer a question in the chat too, I see real quick. Someone wanted to know how long does the selection process. I'm not sure if we mentioned applications must be submitted by September 15th. And the process after that is about a month or two. After that, we send out letters letting individuals know they've been selected after that nomination process has gone through. I wanted to acknowledge and answer that question. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go back on YouTube and answer any more questions that we may not have got a chance to answer. So thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.